Dan. What a pleasure to meet you.
You too, you too. Where are you at?
I'm in London.
You're the London one.
I'm,
Okay.
I'm the London one. I'm the American stuck in London.
Yeah.
um, JD is coming. She is in South Florida and she was hit with a torrential downpour on her way home from work. So
Hmm.
she's going to need a minute. Now,
Hi.
JD, let's,
Hi, I am in
let's
a
stand.
thunderstorm.
Oh,
If you
that's
don't mind
okay.
the
That's okay.
background. I heard,
I'm doing laundry, so it's not a big deal.
oh, there you go. I heard you say high enough ground. I was not on high enough ground before.
You weren't. There is none in Florida. We were talking about
Big flood.
the rains in California are pretty bad right now.
Oh, yeah. We just out of nowhere, we got a torrential rainstorm. And at work, it
Florida.
floods out front. So, yeah.
Did you have to make a
Anyway,
pallet walkway to your car?
they didn't do that for me today.
Like she's in her Doc Martens, she can make it.
Right.
Yeah, that's what they said. You got your high tops on. You're on your own.
You're good. You're fine. We don't need to help you. That's great. This
Oh,
we just I was just saying to Dan, my internet is like crazy bad tonight, which I honestly in all the years we've been doing this, I've not had a problem. And
oh, man,
it's
yeah.
windy, but it's not like I mean, we've had worse and I've been okay. So
Uh,
just to let you know, if it goes down, we'll just pick it up when we get back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
We
Yeah.
yeah.
we'll just pretend like it didn't happen because JD is a master editor, master editor.
Yeah. Seamless, Dan.
Seamless is
Seamless.
the middle
Okay.
name. Exactly. So we've got Dan Watt with us, and you're in LA. JD's in South Florida. I'm in London. I love these weird connects here
Yes.
all, all over the place. But Dan, we found each other on Threads. We were just, you know, seriously, just paying homage to Threads and how much we love it over there now. Um, it was such perfect timing. Like you reached out to me and brought my attention to the fact that March is Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month, which I
Right.
had no idea, and then explained to me what you've got going on. I see the posters behind you. You've made a documentary called Everybody Dance, and we got to let everybody know that right now it's free on Prime for the month of March. Dude,
Oh.
we
Yeah.
want to bring awareness and attention to it. And
Hmm.
and Dan, I'll let you pick it up from there because first of all, what I love about it is that these five families that you were granted access to follow around uh, gave you, kind of full access to
Right.
everything that was going on with them. Um, but I just love the fact that here you are, queer man, had this amazing corporate background, career, Columbia Pictures, working for Simon Cowell, and you said, no, I'm going to do something that is of service, that is something that I want, to create awareness about. So first of all, tell me how you got interested, involved, and then pick the families
Okay.
and they let you.
Right. Exactly. I'm very, very humbled that these families gave me um complete access, that they were on board 100%. It took a while to get them there, but they trusted me. But I originally started out as a dancer in Cleveland, Ohio. And I started late. I started when I was 15. So I had some catching up to do. So I had to take like 5 classes a week and all that kind of stuff. And my dance teacher was originally from New York, and she studied with all the original uh top teachers and those that invented jazz dance. So she studied with Luigi and Bob Fosse and Farella. And those were the ones who started jazz dance.
Right.
So I was getting firsthand knowledge and styles from her. And then what she did is every year she would take 10 or 12 kids that she thought out of her hundreds of students that she felt had potential and the drive and would take us to New York to study in the summer.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow.
Yeah, so then we got a firsthand knowledge, and some of us ran to it and were like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" And some were like, "Oh hell no,"
Yeah.
because she would say, "That guy next to you will be at the audition you want to go to. Can you do that? You're going to be competing against him." So she opened our eyes to what the real world was like, because in Cleveland, I was hot shit.
Yeah.
I was one of the five dancers, so I was, and
Big
then
fish, little pond.
exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. But I got every show I auditioned for. It was great. A lot of
That's what you
experience.
want.
It's scary when you break out of that, right, into the big
Right.
world.
But then I realized I couldn't sing, because Broadway was changing. In the beginning, when one of the first shows I saw was 42nd Street when I was, I think, 15. And, there were dancers, singers, and then the actors. So there were
Mhm.
45 people on stage. Well, then after a chorus line, when they had that line of people that could dance, sing, and act, that kind of shifted it. So you had to be a triple threat. You couldn't, they didn't just put dancers in a show anymore. So
Exactly.
it saved
Yeah.
them money
Yeah.
budget wise. So since I can only sing three notes on pitch, I that wasn't a place for me anymore.
Oh,
So I made the shift and moved to Los Angeles, and that was at the beginning of, Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson. So I thought I'll just be in videos and all that kind of stuff. And I wasn't getting cast, but I wasn't being allowed to dance. We would line up and they would say, "You stay, you stay, you stay, and you stay," and I wouldn't stay. And I thought, well, this is interesting. I mean, I've busted my butt off and I can do, four pirouettes on each leg. I mean, I've trained my butt off. Why won't you watch me? And after
Yeah,
the third time, I thought, you know what? I'm going to stay here. And well, first of all, I'm getting up at 3 a.m. to leave at 5 to get there at 7 for the 9 a.m.
right.
audition,
Yeah.
because it's Los Angeles and everywhere is 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then I stayed till 10:30 at night and I waited for the producers to walk out. And I said, "This is the third time I've been cut and not danced." I said, can you please tell me the truth of what's going on?" And the woman said, "You really want to hear the truth?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Your face is too masculine for the Janet Jackson, the asexual look that they were going for then." And I wanted to go, "Did you meet me?" I mean, this is masculine. But on camera, I have a strong forehead and a strong chin, and camera's right here and stage is over there. But I'm so glad she was so honest with me,
Yeah.
because what that did is then I
yeah,
stayed in the same career. I just went left. I just thought, okay, what I need to do is then audition for dance companies, because they base it on talent, not on the visual look,
Yeah.
because the camera is going to be close and you're gone in 2 seconds and they go back to the singer and then back to somebody, you know. So I just shifted gears. So I never gave up on my career. I just shifted it. You guys, life takes you all over the place.
Yeah. You've got
Your
to be
career and
open
your
to
life.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, you do. And you have to, and wherever it's going to take, whatever is put in front of you is what I do, and
yeah,
that's, I ended up where I am now. So the long story is, then after I was dancing, uh, I started to choreograph. And then after I started choreographing for the stage, I thought, well, that director sucks. He's not doing a good enough show for my work. So then I started directing, and then I thought, well, that producer, that's wrong. Why are they, why are everybody wearing, tablecloths? I mean, it doesn't fit, So I
Yeah.
thought, I'm going to produce. I can do that better. So then I started producing live stage theater, and we got rave reviews because I did it the way that I was taught in Cleveland, and Dee Hillier was my dance teacher, and I went to New York. So I had to give a top-notch show. And I had to do, as a producer, do whatever I could to make it the best experience, because I felt, what if this was your first show?
Yeah.
We're not, you don't have
Right.
to be, you don't have to become a performer. You don't have to become a singer or a dancer or an actress, but theater also trains the next generation of audience members. Theater can also train you to be a lighting designer because you like lights. It can train you to be the sound person because you love music and beats. So then what I started doing is doing a question and answer after the show with the crew and the cast because I thought, why not turn this into an educational show where kids might be interested? Ask the costume designer, ask the hair and makeup person. I
Yeah.
said, let me open it up so that people know what's available to them because like me, my career just went left and right and left and right, and I just did whatever the next thing was, and I was just fortunate that I was open to doing that, and
Right.
I wanted people to know that. So I
Yeah.
did that, and I did that for 10 years, and I worked with Dixie Carter, B. Arthur, Carol Channing, all these
Wow.
amazing people.
Wow.
um
Dixie
but I
Carter.
always wanted to work. Huh?
Dixie
No,
Carter. Oh my God.
Who?
Parker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
Well,
like, oh my God,
well,
Wow.
we're
a,
in it.
a different
We're in it
a
now.
different story we can come back to is I ended up being B. Arthur's personal assistant, but we'll come back to
Oh,
Oh,
that.
yes,
We'll
do.
say,
Please
let's
do.
keep the audience. Let's save that till the end.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
And I want
yes.
to hear about Dixie Carter because all-time favorite.
Oh,
All-time favorite.
love her.
I named
Love,
one of
love,
my guitars after her. I
love
named
her. Yeah.
my black guitar after her. Yes.
Yeah. But so I thought I've always wanted to do film and television. So I thought, well, I've done this for 10 years. Either go back to year one and just repeat everything. I can make my life easy. Just start with, year one and then just repeat everything you did and be comfortable for the next 10 years. But I don't like doing that. There's no spark for me. There's nothing
Yeah.
exciting about that.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, why not audition? And I mean, auditions. Here I am yelling from the theater. Why not audition?
Yeah.
Why not apply and see what happens? So I kept that job, and in 1 week I applied at two different places. The Dr. Phil show on a Wednesday was my interview. So I went there, and the girl was like 21, and here's this guy in his 40s who walks in, and she's looking at me, and my resume is 2 pages long, but there's nothing on it that says film or television.
Oh,
And she's like, you don't have any television credits. How can we can't hire you? I said,
Yeah.
well, I brought in the Peking acrobats. I brought in kids, their learning permits, their green cards, their parents, and their teachers to America to perform for me. I brought in Russian male dancers and drummers, and I got all their paperwork and their stuff in order and brought them in and got them home. And you don't think I can bring a mother and daughter fighting from Kansas? But I'm like, really? you know,
wow.
that's
Yeah.
one click of a button and they'll be there.
Right.
You were well groomed for that job.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she couldn't see it, and she was also younger than me. That I think she was also like shocked that who is this old man coming in here to apply for a job?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then Thursday, I went to Columbia Pictures, and that guy saw my resume, and he said, "Are you sure you want to work here?" He
You're
said, "Because
overqualified now. You're
yeah,
overqualified.
he said, you're going to have to start out as someone's assistant. You're going to have to learn how we do it. You're going to have to learn how we sort our scripts, where they're kept, all of the business side of it, the computer side, all that stuff. You're going to have to learn all of that. You have what it takes. It's the same. Most of the skill set is the same. It's just in a different way. So he
Mhm.
said, so you're going to have to do that for a while and learn how we do it. And I said, yes. So it's interesting how, and what I like audiences to take from that is on a Wednesday I was told no and given this weird look like, why are you here? And on Thursday they're like, are you sure you want to work here? So it's you never know. You never know. And thank God Dr. Phil said no, because I didn't like him. So I would have
Oh,
probably gotten in a fight with him on
oh,
the show anyway. I would have
oh.
been fighting
Oh,
with him
I
in the
hate him
hallway.
too.
I don't
I would
think
have
I
said,
He's
asshole.
so punchable. He's so his
I
face is so
know.
I don't like him either, Dan. I
I'd be
agree.
walking down the hallway and go, asshole, and keep walking.
Yeah. Yeah. You dodged a bullet there. Let's say
Yeah,
it. You dodged a
exactly.
bullet. Yeah.
Exactly. But you don't realize that
When it's
when you
happening,
send
when
out
you're in
50
it.
applications
Yeah.
and they reply yes, you're like, great, I got one, I got one. You know.
Yeah.
So, and then the first movie I worked on was House Bunny with Anna Faris, and
Oh
that was
yeah.
from the table read from the very beginning all the way through the filming. And that was just a blast. And what was great, a funny story about that is they had after the premiere, they had the after party at the Playboy Mansion.
Oh, how fitting.
Yeah, it was so the only people could go would be the people that worked on the film.
Right.
So little old gay Danny Watt was going to the Playboy Mansion, and every straight assistant and producer at Columbia Pictures was like, "Why are you going? This is not fair."
That's
And
hilarious.
yeah, and there's pictures of me there, and I'm surrounded by all the bunnies. They were drawn to me. They, honest to God, the two of them came over and we just started talking, and they said, "You are so refreshing." And then all these bunnies started coming over. They're like, "Is it okay? You're like a safe place. Can we just stay here?" Because I because
Yeah.
I wasn't hitting on them. I was like, "Oh
Exactly.
my God, you look fabulous. Who did your hair?" You know,
That's
and they
fantastic.
Both of
just
them on a different level, Dan, a
Yeah.
different
right.
level.
Yeah. They were probably
Yeah.
so
So I
relieved. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
yeah.
so I made sure when I got those pictures developed in 24 hours and hung them up at the office so everybody could walk by and see me with all the bunnies.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And then I was there for 5 years. And then Simon Cowell started um, in his company, started a scripted film and television department and brought me over. And we did the One Direction uh, movie, the band One Direction, their documentary
Oh,
was the first thing. So we filmed
Wow.
them. We filmed them their first year and putting their out. The first day of work was them in Los Angeles doing their first album.
oh God.
So yeah, so I have pictures of these young little kids, you know,
I
and
can't
Harry
believe
and I
I'm not using my
stayed
Harry
friends. So,
Styles mug right now.
huh?
Every
Yeah.
almost every show, I'm drinking out of a Harry Styles mug. And this
Yeah.
no, I'm not. And here we are with the Connect. Oh, okay.
So and on my wall over here, I have the first CD autographed to Dan from One Direction, and they all signed it with their little hearts and stuff. So
Oh
that's
man.
one of my prized
You have
possessions
quite
from
a
way
list
back.
of people that you worked with. Wow. I mean, that is so impressive, and it had to be exciting to work with all those different multifaceted people, you know.
At points of their career where they were nowhere near as big as they are now.
Right,
So it's like you probably saw more realness in
right,
Yeah.
them at that stage, not just One Direction, but even going back to, the way they were doing movies then. And,
right,
people like Anna Faris, people like Dixie Carter, like B. Arthur, at that
right,
Yeah.
at that stage of their lives, they're very different than after they've hit that pinnacle. So how fortunate that you were along for the ride at the right times.
well,
So true. So
and what
true.
was great about Psycho, which it was Simon Cowell's production company, is he used us in all areas. So when X Factor was having auditions, I and America's Got Talent, it was X Factor. They put me in charge of um the kids and the kids' parents because they felt that I had like an Uncle Dan image.
Mhm.
You know, I was older, so I would be gentler. Well, first of all, I hate kids, so but they didn't know that. Like, uh-oh, well, okay, it's a patient. But they
Yeah,
felt that I would be I that if they had to be told no, it would be I would be able to do that because I had taught dance and I had taught kids that
right.
I would be able to do that. But that was a huge experience because I was in charge of everybody that Paula Abdul and Simon saw. They had tents side by side and they were auditioning at the same time because there were 10,000 people in the parking lot. You know, so they would come in, sing a song, and Paula would go, "Okay, thank you." And you know, and they would step out, come out of the tent, and she'd go like this,
Oh
Yeah.
and they had a
man.
purple wristband on, and I had scissors, and I had to hug them, shake their hand, cut their purple wristband off, and
Oh
then tell them no and push them to the left because left was towards security to leave and right was to stay. So I'm like, "Oh, honey, I loved your voice," and I'm hugging as I'm slotting these
oh
scissors in
man.
to cut the wristband off a 12-year-old and then push her and her mother
Oh,
to the left.
Oh my
I was like,
God.
"Oh my God." And then Simon would send somebody out. So I was like, and then I had to run over there and he'd say yes. And I'd go, "Oh, honey, great." And you get to go on. But I was a nervous wreck, you know, but
wow.
most of the parents understood. I didn't have any trouble. Yeah, their kid is crying and they of course they thought they should have been on, but nobody ever got really crazy
Yeah.
to me. I think they were still in shock as I just shoved them towards security to
Right.
get them out of the building.
Really clean cut
They
right
No
were
there.
like,
way.
why did Uncle Dan push me? Where am I going?" And I'm like,
They were literally
This
getting
is it.
cut out of the show.
right.
Literally getting cut. That's a
That's funny.
tough gig.
My
Wow.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
You were
So
not the big uncle to those people.
that was interesting. And for whatever reason, they felt that I would be more a more calming
Yeah.
personality voice
Yeah.
than anybody
Definitely.
else at that time. So I'm like, cool, whatever,
I
you
think
know.
they also think like with age comes patience. Like you've got
Think,
to, you would think, right? But that, yeah, people are under that impression, like
right,
that in your 40s and 50s that you've got a little bit more patience than some 20-year-old that is like pulling out their,
right.
stressed
Yeah.
out all the time.
And I think you're right. I think that the kids and the parents would listen to someone that's older than if one of the 23-year-old interns was trying to get them to leave, they'd say, "Who are you?" No, you
Yeah,
know, but
exactly.
here was an older man
Yeah,
that
yeah, the
was
present.
kind enough and smart enough to give him a hug as I cut off the
Right.
wristband so
Oh,
they didn't know
So
what was
sweet.
going on.
So
And as I was processing everything, and then I realized after I decided to leave, it's like every 10 years my life shifts. You know, I give it I try something different.
yeah,
Um, so I was trying to process it and I thought, why do I watch documentaries? Why do they fascinate me? What fascinated me is I wanted to find out, is there if you studied the arts, if your mom and dad made you take piano lessons or violin or put you in a children's theater program for a summer and you didn't make that a profession, did you learn anything that you apply in your everyday life? That was my idea because I took dance and I saw how the discipline of having to go 5 days a week because I had to catch up. My mom and dad said, we can only afford 3 classes a week. Well, since I started later in life, I needed to figure out how to take 5 or 6 classes a week. So I had to ask Dee, the dance teacher, what can I do? And she said, well, on Tuesdays, why don't you be my assistant? So you come to the beginning class, you can work on your technique, but the kids will follow you because you're a level 3, but you're actually leading the level 1. And I didn't realize that that was actually training me how to be a teacher because I was the one in the front, but it also taught me,
wow.
oh, darn it, you know, the kids are watching me now because she would tell me what to do and I had to do it. And then they would follow me. So it taught me how to handle that responsibility, because now I'm scrubbing toilets when everybody left so that those two classes were free.
Right.
So it just
That's
taught
a
me,
serious commitment. Yeah.
yeah, and to know that I had the drive and the desire to do it. And you don't think about it while you're scrubbing the toilet. You're like, I wish I could go home. But
Yeah.
then you realized that things aren't always handed to you. If you really want it, you got to find a way how to get it,
Right.
you know?
Right. And you don't normally look
So,
at it till like it's like hindsight, you know.
right, exactly.
When you're in it, it sucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But yeah,
100%.
in hindsight, you're like, you know what? Like it was worth it. That was worth
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that
And
was a way for me to get what I from A to B, you know?
right.
Yeah.
So that was my initial idea for the movie.
Now,
And then I had a dream, and I don't remember my dreams, but it was a very vivid dream of this woman, Fran, and her two daughters, and they both had autism that I taught. And I haven't taught, in 18 years. So I'm like, why did I dream about Fran and her two daughters? I thought, well, that was interesting. And then I had another dream about them like 2 weeks later. And I thought, something's going on. And I thought, you know what? This is God poking me. This is my higher power saying, here's your fucking movie. I'm
Yeah.
telling you what to do. Here it is.
Yeah.
And again, it goes
Wow.
back to being open, open.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't see it. It's right in front of you and you don't see it.
And
Right?
again,
And
Exactly.
but in your
it's like,
dream,
yeah, but you had an idea in mind of something, but thankfully you weren't so obsessed or committed that you ignored what was going on, and again able to shift and open yourself up to,
yeah,
like, no, this is where we're going, this is it.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
And it got the same message across because the movie shows, and a lot of the parents talk about what the kids learn in ballet in their dance class, how they apply it in their life. If you have a developmental disability, the one girl in the movie, Maddie, has Down syndrome. And in the movie, they put a purple square on the floor. All the kids have a square to go to. So when they come into class, that's their assigned space. And Bonnie, the teacher, says that's your safe space. When you're in your square, you're safe. And you talk to me and we do the dance there, but that's your safe space. And she teaches that way. Well, Maddie would run around and not go in her square. So Bonnie would pretend she didn't see her. And she'd go, "Where's Maddie? Did Maddie come today?
oh,
I don't see Maddie." And she would start teaching the class and not give Maddie any attention. Maddie would step into her square and Bonnie would go, "Maddie, it's so nice to see you. I'm so glad you came to ballet class today." So Maddie then took the purple square and that space, and well, her parents did, and they applied it in everyday life. They talked to the teacher at school, at her traditional school, and they said, the dance teacher does this. Why don't we try it with Maddie? They put purple tape on her desk, around the edge of her desk.
Oh, yes.
So the color purple in a square then translated to, when she's in her traditional school, this is now my safe place and this is where I should be. She also takes typical kids. So there's kids with a neurological, who are neurodivergent or have a developmental disability, but I could take the class, so there's also typical kids and they all work together. They all take the 1 hour ballet class and they all learn a routine and they all just become one family working together. And that's what made the movie even more important to me, because it shows that we need to focus on the similarities.
Yeah.
And
The
these
inclusivity is
kids
amazing.
these kids didn't judge each other. They didn't say anything. They came together to take dance, learn a dance, and then put on a show.
Yeah.
Right.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
such a difference in what you have to do and what you want to do.
Right.
There's order to that. Like, do what you have to
Right.
do to be able to do what you want to do. There's
Right.
definite order, steps, and we don't, as adults, we don't think about it, or, able-bodied, able-minded. It
right?
doesn't, we want something, we go get it. It's not about that. But yeah, with the disabilities or the neurodivergence, there is like harmony in the order of
Mhm.
things. That's
Yeah.
where it comes from. Like we watched that Netflix special, like Down with Love or Down for Love or
Yep,
something. And it was so interesting how different every kind of Down syndrome is.
right.
The commonality might be in their face or their eyes or whatever, but everything else is different about it, and each little story that they focused on was so incredibly interesting. Family's approach to having a child, the child's personality, their surroundings, and how they're brought up. And some of them it's just like we don't see a difference, and others were all about that difference. So I think it's interesting to see how different families and communities approach it,
Right.
and how it works. Like it might not always be the same, and that's what
Well, and I
I love
think
about your thing is it's inclusivity, but also focusing on those differences and how to make them work.
So I saw the trailer and I thought it was amazing. Like I can't wait
I
to
feel like
see
it
this.
makes them feel comfortable in their own skin to be doing
Yeah.
something that either they A, never thought they could, or B, didn't didn't feel able. You have
well,
like somebody so nurturing like Bonnie is.
And
and I
worried
think
about not being accepted too, because I think the one little boy said he usually is treated so differently at
right
school.
in school, yeah,
Yeah.
that was a tearjerker day. I had to keep myself together while we filmed it. Well, yeah, Liam, who I'm still friends with a lot of the families, and him and his parents are one of them, where he said he didn't feel um he doesn't feel he fits in at school, but at ballet class he does.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it's the first time he ever verbalized it to his mom.
Uh,
So, and he still takes dance there, and it has helped him so much that he has grown and been in the choir at his school,
Oh wow.
and is now took it gone into the acting part of it. So he's done plays and stuff like that. But I think society and people have a definition in their minds of what a developmental disability is, or or like say autism.
Mhm.
And Bonnie says it brilliantly, as she said, if you meet one person with autism, you've met one person with autism, which goes
mm,
back to exactly what you were saying, is just like the three of us, our personalities are completely different. But for some reason, society has put this definition of what an autistic person, or someone with autism, we should say, what someone with autism should look like and act like.
Right.
But
It's an
just
all
like
in
the
one
three of
body.
us,
Yeah.
we are all different, and every circumstance is going to affect us differently. We
Right.
are going to react different in the room if something happens. So why would they not be able to
Exactly.
react different?
yeah.
I mean, like they
So what?
said it about like a spectrum, right?
Right,
Which means
Right.
right,
pretty
Right.
broad arc, you know?
right.
So why are we putting them all in one
There,
space?
and there's a part in the movie where one of the girls who has autism, her way of coping when she's stressed and overwhelmed is she laughs. So she starts to laugh, and she runs out of the room because she knows it when she gets like this, she leaves the room so she doesn't disrupt. So she's laughing, but she actually bumps into Ben, and then goes out and sits in the lobby until she calms down. and all good. And then she comes back in. Well, to me, that story was very important because it shows one aspect of autism, and it's called it's called stimming. If you see them and they're twiddling their thumbs or they're going like this, you might think they have a nervous twitch, but that person might have autism, and that's their way of coping. They're stamping their foot, they're
Yes.
stamping their hands, they're doing something like this. Or hers was laughter, so she left, calmed down, and then came back in. But I also didn't want to exploit the kids in any way, and I didn't want to go, look, I was very sensitive to what went in the movie and how it was portrayed. So we talked to the parents, and then Ben on his camera could pull up that footage. So we showed the mom and dad that section of her laughing and leaving the room, and then just sitting on the couch, and she, held the pillow for a while, and then she calmed down and was fine and went back in class. And I said, I think this would be excellent on the educational part. It taught me something in the moment. So hopefully in the movie, if we teach one or two of the audience members something new, it taught me, right there in the split second. And they said they agreed, and they said, yes, you can use it. And then
Oh,
we showed it to the daughter, and she was okay with it because she was the star. She was the star of that scene. It was
right.
a close up of her. So she was happy. So I was very cognizant and aware of that. And if I had any questions, I had I could go to Bonnie, or I would go directly to the parents. And I also had some other experts in the field that I talked to, because I didn't want to exploit them. And I wanted to make it very, very clear and come across that these are their stories, their their
Journeys.
their journey in
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
words. And it was their word. I am just the person who was blessed, and uh that they trusted enough to tell the story, to be able to sit there when Liam told his mom he didn't feel comfortable in school.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Huge.
That's a,
Huge.
a big, big deal for a parent and a child.
Right.
And
Right.
for him to share it, and her to share it, and for them to be okay, for me to tell that story. Because again, what did we feel like when we were in, fourth grade?
Yeah.
I remember I
Yeah.
liked
Yeah.
science class because I liked the teacher, but I dreaded going to math class.
Right.
You know, we
Right.
we all have insecurities in our lives. We all have circumstances that arise in our life that we have to maneuver around and learn how to navigate. But in December of that, when I was filming, I went to Target to get my last minute, stocking stuffers. And I'm walking down one of the aisles, and there was a girl on the floor having a tantrum. And I walked by and I went, I wonder if she's on the spectrum. And I kept shopping. And when I got in my car, I started to cry. I went, oh my God, the switch has flipped. I didn't go, what a rotten kid.
Yeah.
What a horrible mother. Why is that mother letting that child get away with that behavior? I
My
thought, wonder if they're on the spectrum. And I just went on with my life. And I,
See?
when
Yeah.
I, when I sat in my car and I cried, I thought, this is what I have to tell my editor, Isaiah. This is the message we need to get across. We need to educate people. And if we can flip the switch in two or three people's minds, we've done our job.
That's one of the things I wanted to ask. After everything is said and done, and and it's quite an accomplishment. It's quite an achievement and commitment. It's over a year of your life, um, in subject matter that can make people uncomfortable, make them, yeah, like kind of be a little bit nervous. about it. After all that is said and done, and you felt that change in you, what were some of the other things that you took away? What did you learn being with these families? Was it their challenges, their strength, how they go about it?
I think the what I recognized was the similarities. And I recognized that kids are just kids, and that there are we have a chance every day to make our lives and the world more inclusive. And we can decide to do it or not to do it. And that comes in so many ways, you know, just by, holding the door for someone who's walking with a cane, you
Mhm.
know, it, and I think it's our goal as a community to help create a world where it's okay to be you. And we can all relate to that. And maybe that's why I was so, I don't know if sympathetic is the right word. I was comfortable. Let I was comfortable sitting with these families because we're from the LGBTQ community.
Right.
So
Hmm.
I was used to feeling different. you
Hmm.
know did
Yes.
I fit in, did I not fit in? So I could relate to their stories. And one thing that Morgan Spurlock said to me, as he lived in New York and I was in California, but what I would text him and say, can you talk, and he would call me within 30 seconds, and I'd be crying, laying in a ball in the middle of my living room going, I can't do this anymore. And he's like, okay, are you done whining? Yeah. Okay, now get up and edit your fucking movie. And I'm like, shouldn't you hold me a little longer? Can I complain a little more? And he's
Everybody
like,
needs one of those brutally honest people that
yes,
are push you out of that
They just
pity
keep
yeah.
it
place.
real. They keep you
And
real.
Right.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
there for you to encourage you and hold you up, but also to slap you when you're just in your pity party.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yes, yes.
That's so funny.
I so I think that I could relate on certain levels, and I could also relate to when we got to the point of editing. I had to trust my editor because I went from 17 kids I was following to, I think it was either 11 or 12, but I had created an emotional bond with these people because I was there every weekend,
Yeah.
and I wanted Liam in the film. But did I want Liam in the film because he was a male dancer? And I'm like, yay, we got another boy. We got to put him in the film,
Yeah.
because I was that boy dancer who, it's rare. And he loved it so much that I had to trust Isaiah and say, you know what? You need to I need to now trust you to whittle this down, because he's never met them. So he's just looking at raw footage and
Yeah.
putting a story together
Yeah.
where my heart was attached to all of them,
Yeah.
and
You
I
were
would have
way close.
all, but then
Way
it turns
close.
into a mini series,
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we really need to show Maddie eating Cheerios?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
really necessary? Or
Yeah.
can we cut out the Cheerios and still get the story? Do we
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
Maddie
Right.
hanging up a
Yeah.
Christmas ornament? I'm like, yeah, but it's so cute and it was a nutcracker. He's
Yeah.
like, she's hanging up a Christmas ornament.
Yeah. Sometimes we have to understand we're a little too close. We're a little too close to it. We need to get
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
aside, approach
That's
like
true.
an
Yeah.
audience member. Right, exactly. But I'll tell you, going back to what you were saying about you know, what you came away with, what you learned. I the talking about the shift in you when my mom has MS and
Mhm.
she didn't and she'll be 78 this year. And she found out in her 50s. And it was progressive.
Mhm.
So it wasn't like relaxing remitting where you have an exacerbation and then you go back to normal. And
Right.
there's a ton of, drugs there's so much um progress with that particular type, but not with her type. So it just progressively gets worse. There's no stopping it. It's like a train, And I
Wow.
think when she just had to use a cane, we were still kind of, it was fresh, that kind of thing. And everybody was like, like circling around her like she was made of glass and, like,
Aw.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like we were all, and then, and that made her feel uncomfortable, and finally she just would say, I can do it myself. If I need it, I'll ask. If I need you to do something, I'll ask. But the switch for me happened when I think when you're living your everyday life and you're in and out and you're doing your errands and it's after work and you've only got a little bit of time and you've got to do this and do that, or you've run out on your lunch break or whatever, and you're so in it, you're so in your own two by two, as I always call it, you're so in it
Right.
that you don't think about things. Now that, I've had to deal with things from lifting my mother up off the floor and putting her in a wheelchair to
Mhm.
cooking for her to to doing all these things that I'm an only child. I mean, like I was spoiled rotten, like not having to do any of these things. Now I find myself so incredibly aware of somebody with a disability, whereas before I would shoot on by because I was in my own two by two. And now I am the door holder, oh my God, do you need help getting in your car? Here, I'll close the trunk, you start getting in, and I'll come and help you get in the car. Like when you see strangers having an issue,
Hmm.
um,
Yes. Yeah.
so much more sympathetic, so much more empathetic to it. And I can honestly say that, before I didn't see
I
it.
think that if we just look at the similarities, every child has a special gift. Every person, not every child,
Yeah.
every person has a special gift. And if we find that and nurture it, if mine started out as a dancer, my mom and dad let me do it, you
Hmm.
know, and they encouraged it, they embraced it. So I think th any kid should be treated that way and to not be,
Yeah.
I don't want to say looked down upon. I don't know, that's not the right term, but I think if we just realize that we are all the same. Again, is it because, and this is me personally, my left foot is a quarter of an inch shorter than the rest. And that was just because I broke my leg when I was little. Okay, so I can walk a little like this, with a little bit of a, okay, but I had to adjust to that in my dancing
Hmm.
because everything was easy on one side because the leg was shorter, the foot would just go in quicker. But, but the other side was harder. So I had to adjust. I had to pull up more. I had to figure out, how do I make it not look like I was adjusting while I was performing. So it's just, everybody has something.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And again, if we embrace the similarities and the sunshine and the light that uh we are all blessed with, we all have it. And you can, oh, there was a quote, shoot. Um there's a quote in one of those self-help books that said something about, you can approach life a day and your life with constant, grinding your teeth and trepidation, or you can just embrace the day that is in front of you
Hmm.
and just go with it. It saves so much headache and trouble if you
Hmm.
just embrace the rain when you're driving home. Okay, there's nothing I can do. It's raining now. This is the day that has been put in front of me. I will
Right.
call my podcast host and co-host and say, I'm going to be late. You just in this is the day
I
you
see
can go,
where you're
you can
going
get
with
in.
that.
Yeah, you can get in your head and you can go, son of a bitch. And you can make yourself so miserable, or you can just embrace what's in front of you and
Yeah.
then figure it out, you
Right.
know?
Right.
We talk about this with so many people, Dan, especially because we talk to so many actors, comedians, filmmakers, um, uh, and the biggest thing that, like, I would say in the last, what, Jay, maybe 2 years, that when we were talking to people, it's always how they handled that time during COVID, where everybody
Mm.
had to pivot, everybody had to adjust, everybody had to figure out a way to do their work, to earn a living still, and everybody made these, whether they were finite or whether they were huge,
Right.
adjustments to, to survive. Like, we all did it and we came through, and here we are, like, kind of embracing all those changes that we made. Like,
Yeah.
nobody really
Yes.
wants to go back to the office. Everybody's cool with working at home,
I
balancing your, so,
Yeah.
everybody, and it is amazing that we did it, that we got through it. And one of the things I came away with is saying that, like, it's okay. We all figured it out. Like, I'm not the best with technology, but we figured it out, and
right.
it's like, the fact that my mom can video call me now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, she was awful with technology. I mean, she still is, but I mean, like, little things that she's
Mhm.
picked up on, that she learned from it, we're all thrilled with. But yeah, like, I think that it kind of taught us that we can persevere, that we can get through it, we could pivot, we could figure it out. But it sometimes it takes something as awful as a fucking
Right.
pandemic, to figure it out.
Yeah.
When if we would have just had that mindset before, all these little things that bugged you, like, we would just be open to figuring it out, and making the change that was necessary to cause the least amount of stress. But no,
Well,
some
I
people
think
thrive on the stress.
right. Well,
Yeah.
I think that was the universe telling us to slow down.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
think that was the universe saying, okay, because look at how many people didn't go back to work. If they were a two-family income,
Yeah.
where now one of the members of the family is staying home because they spent a year and a half with their children,
Exactly.
it's
Yeah. That's the hope, is that first of all, I hope that people that watch the film will come away thinking differently about, and it's incredibly generous of you to use your time and your resources that way. And it's so needed. I hope more people think about that when they're coming up with a concept, to put the focus on something that needs awareness, that needs the word to be put out there, it needs to be shown. People need some understanding about the situation. So, did you get good feedback from all the families when they were finally able to see it?
yeah,
I was
we
gonna.
actually it was done. We were done right before COVID hit.
Oh, yeah.
Because COVID hit, I didn't release it. What I did is I submitted to the Santa Barbara Film Festival, and they're an international film festival, and they were actually the first film festival that had in-person film festival after COVID. They were
Okay.
the first one that allowed people to come. You
That
had to
come.
wear a mask and stuff, but it was the first one. Well, Santa Barbara is here in California, and it's 2 hours north of Los Angeles. So,
Yeah.
and we got picked to be in it. So it was great that the families could all drive up there and
Oh,
see it.
yeah. Yeah.
So the premiere of the film, I think 25 people from the studio went up and saw it. So it was great for them to see the premiere of it and go through that experience you know,
Yeah.
Heather,
and to
yeah.
see themselves on the big screen. Like the one girl, Charlie, who's the cute little blonde girl who didn't want to go on stage, is like, "Mommy, your head's so big."
Just what you want to hear.
Exactly.
That's
These
brilliant.
brutally
That is
honest
brilliant.
children out of the
Yes.
mouth.
Yeah, from the mouths of children. Oh God, but that's so lovely that everybody got to kind of it was like a little reunion. Um,
Yeah.
to see the finished
Yes.
product like together.
Right.
That's really sweet.
Right,
That's
right,
great. And is
right.
this that had to be big news, like to be able to have it on Amazon. And then
Yeah, and it's on you can see it on like Apple TV. It was actually picked as one of the top documentaries on Apple TV, and I was like, when did this happen? But then I saw I was like, but nobody told me.
let's go out on a quick B. Arthur funny. Do you have any
Yeah,
plug for B. Arthur?
please.
Yeah,
We can
I
go
brought
on.
her show. I brought her one woman Broadway show. She did a limited run in New York. She said, I'm only going to do 3 months. So, and that was 2002 or whenever it was. So I thought I have a nonprofit called the Art Attack Foundation, and I started it to give scholarship to kids in the performing arts. So that's what we are. You can look it up and the audience can look it up. But I brought her out I asked her if she would do a fundraiser. And again, me just getting an idea and following through, people were like, "You called B. Arthur?" I'm like, "Yeah, I called her at home." And I said, "Would you do this fundraiser for the Art Attack Foundation Scholarship Fund?" And she's like, "Who the fuck are you?"
Ah,
That sounds like a conversation. Like I
Yeah.
would like
And
that with
I
Sharon
explained
Doss.
what it was.
Same
She didn't
thing.
hang up. I explained what it was. And she said, "Well, let me give you her piano player and her hair and makeup lived in New York. So she said, call Billy. If Billy will do it, we'll do it." So now I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Now I have to put on a show because she
ah,
said,
Yeah.
if Billy will do it. I'm like, oh no. So I called Billy, and she just wanted to have a pajama party at her house, is what it was.
aw.
So I flew Billy, and then Matt, her lighting designer and sound guy, and Russell, her hair and makeup guy, out, and then they just spent 10 days at her house and around her pool. So it was just a big pajama party and picnic. Uh, and then they performed on a Friday, you know. um, but I met her there and went up to the house, and they rehearsed the show in front of me. So picture this, sitting on her couch in her living room alone, me, little old Danny Watt from Cleveland, Ohio, sitting there with B. Arthur in front of you doing her entire one-woman show just to you.
Wow.
Rehearsal.
If
And I'm
Wow.
like,
a treat, man.
what is going on? And so you're like, well, do I clap? It's just,
Oh.
so you're like, do I let you, what, it's weird. And again, right here, that voice, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
So I got in my car and cried.
Oh,
Um,
Like any
so
oh.
good man would.
yeah, like, yeah. So, as a queen with a VIP card, I had to,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so we sold out one night in like 2 days. And this is before this was not computer
Right.
tickets. The theater
Right.
was strictly called the box office.
Mhm.
And they said, you're sold out. And that was for a Saturday. And so I asked everybody up there, I said, do you guys want to do a show on Sunday? I said, we're sold out. You're already here. You're not flying out till Tuesday. And they said, sure, we'll do another show. So
Nice.
we
See?
did a show on Sunday. And then after Sunday, we're backstage in the hallway, and it's me, her, and Matt, her lighting designer. But he does everything. He's the one who handles her wardrobe. He is anything backstage, it's him. Um, so it's me, her, and him. And I'm thanking them. And she says to Matt, now I'm standing right here next to her, but she's looking directly ahead at Matt. And she said, he's as good as the producers are in New York. Ask him if he wants to work for me. And Matt goes, he's standing right there. And she goes,
In that
what if
way.
she won't
Oh,
look. She goes, what if he says no? So he turns to me and goes, do you want to work for B. Arthur? And I was first, I'm like, I go, sure. She goes, see you on Saturday. And then she just walked out the door and just
Ah,
left the theater.
God.
I
So I'm
love that
standing there.
story.
So the two of them left, and I'm standing there, and the theater's empty except for the stage manager. And then all the lights start going out, and I'm still in there. It was like she ended the scene, and the stage manager knew to shut off all the lights. Yeah,
Yeah, that was
her
very
exit.
and scene. Right?
Yeah, it was like, wait a minute. Yeah.
Oh
And then I
wow.
became her personal assistant for 6 years up until she passed
Oh
away.
my
Yeah.
God. I
God,
love that story.
that's
Yeah.
a good one. That
Yeah.
is,
What if he says no?
I'm like
Just
picturing
right,
the whole thing right in front of me in her voice. I can hear it.
right.
God,
Yeah.
that is
I
fantastic.
like, did you walk away from that thinking what just happened? Like
I had no idea. I mean, and I worked at Columbia Pictures. So is this a full-time? What is this? But I thought I'm not going to tell her no.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't tell P. Arthur no. And then I'll just figure it out. Okay, fine. I work 24 hours a day now. Okay, whatever it is, I'll work it
You
out.
absolutely can't turn down something like that.
No,
no,
I'll
oh
be
my
There's no
fine.
way.
I'll make it work, whatever it is. Yeah.
God.
I did the same
That's
exact thing
awesome.
with Sharon Glass. Like my friend was her PA while she was doing a play here in London.
Mhm.
And that friend's family had a emergency back in California, and I had Sharon on my previous podcast 3 or 4 times, and then met her prior to this play opening to do a 1 hour exclusive like podcast about this particular play. So we met at the Rathbone and hung out for an hour. And I it got her husband was there. So then after we were done, we wrapped up and we sat in the lobby, had drinks with Barney Rosenzweig
Right.
and her, right? Like it was just surreal. So when her PA had to leave for a family emergency, she said to Sharon, what are we gonna do? Like I have to go home for this. And she
Right.
was like, well, what about the fun one, the one from Florida that I met before? That one. She's here, right? So Deb called me and said Sharon wants to know if you'll hang out with her for a week and be her PA while I'm back in the States. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know anything about being a PA. She was like, I'll give you the binder. It was
Right.
like, "Okay, I'll give you the binder. You can shadow me for a day and then I gotta go." And that's what I
Wow.
did. It
Was that
was
when she did Prisoner of Second Avenue?
no, a round-heeled woman.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
I
based on
brought in the show Prisoner of Second Avenue and here where I live, and she came to watch it because she was going to go into it. So
Oh.
they had called me and said, we don't want any hoopla. As soon as the light goes dark, can you help us bring her in? Because she was going to take over the lead woman. So I, brought her in. She came for 2 of the nights and sat in the back so she could take notes and stuff. And then I took her backstage, and I am in love, in love, in love with her. So her and I were chatting and had fun backstage and had lunch together the second day. And I said, I don't want to disturb you. I said, but I admire you and your work so much. If you could please send me a picture, when you get home. And she said, of course, of course. She put my address in her pocket. Never got anything. It was like February, so it was like winter. December comes around. I get this envelope with like 9 signed things. She goes, Dan, I think you asked for my autograph. If I remember right, you're that guy that really likes me. So if you're not, just throw this shit away. But if you are, here's an envelope full of stuff.
that's her. That is
It
so her.
was so funny, but
That's
she
a
is
great
such an
story.
what an amazing woman to talk to. I
Yeah,
mean, and you had dinner with her.
yeah.
She is as smart as a whip.
Yep.
And there's just something that people don't know about her. There's this aura around her, and she is so down to earth.
Mhm.
She is one of the most lovely people that I brought in, and along with Dixie Carter. Like Dixie, then I brought Dixie Carter in to do her cabaret show as a fundraiser for my scholarship fund the following year. Well, Dixie hadn't done it in like 9 years since New York when, and she would do it like at Joe's Pub or something like that, a place where they would like book her for 2 or 3 weeks. And
Mhm.
she hadn't done it because she was out here, did Designing Women and all that kind of stuff. And I said, I want to see that. I saw it in New York. I'm in love with you. Let's,
Aw.
will you do it here? And she's like, oh my God, because she hadn't done it in so many years. So she called John, her pianist, and he said, okay, let's do it. And they did it for me. And at intermission, we go backstage. I am bawling. She's like, what? I go, you are brilliant.
Oh,
I said, this
Oh,
show
wow.
is stunning because she was so nervous, but she literally made me cry. And it was an accomplishment. I mean, I was so glad that it turned out so well, that we accomplished it together, because I had been at rehearsal, and I was just happy in so many ways.
Oh.
So that she starts crying. So then we had to extend intermission by 10 minutes because she had to re-put her eyes back on again.
Ah,
And then her and I became friends where she then had me put together a little bit of a tour of the show here on the West Coast. So I reached different colleges and different performing arts places where they were far enough away where they wouldn't compete, where you could do it in Malibu, but also book her in Palm Springs, where it's a 3 hour drive, 4 hour
right.
drive.
Yeah.
They're not competing ticket sales, you
Mhm.
know
mhm.
but again, then I'm sitting up at her house organizing this stuff and helping her with her fan mail, and her husband, Hal Holbrook, walks in and he's
Oh,
like,
love
I'm gonna
it.
have lunch. You want a turkey sandwich? I'm like,
Ah.
okay. Wait, Hal Holbrook is making me a turkey sandwich. I don't understand what is going on.
Those are those moments. I know. Those are those moments. Honestly,
I
I know
remember him
when
going,
you know, I'm sure you must know Jennifer Saunders, Dawn French.
I know who they are, yeah, but I don't know them personally.
Okay, so when Sharon was doing the play over here, they came to the show. So Sharon's agent poked her head in the dressing room once the show had started. So Sharon was on stage the whole 90 minutes of the show. Never, never a moment off stage. And so there's nothing really to do when that's going on, So I would sit in the dressing room and flip through the script and see if there was anything that I had to remind her about and book the car, book the restaurant, all that kind of stuff. I got to be really good at it, man. But anyway,
Right.
so her agent pokes her head in and she goes, listen, after the show, Sharon doesn't know it, but Dawn and Jennifer are here. And I had only been here 6 months. I didn't know who they were. And she wasn't saying their last names, or maybe I might have, but she was just saying Dawn and Jennifer. And I was like, okay. About 20 minutes later, the agent pops her head back in, goes, don't forget, don't let Sharon leave the room. I'm going to bring Dawn and Jennifer in to surprise her. And I'm like, okay, I got it.
Right.
So the show ends. Sharon comes backstage and she has to have an eye doctor come in to take her contacts out for her because she will not touch her own eyes. So every night this guy would come,
Wow.
come at
A
7
doc.
and then come again at 9:30. So she gets her big, her big black glasses on
Right.
or whatever, gets her street clothes on, and I can't let her leave because Don and
Right
Jennifer
here.
are coming, right? So I'm like, hey, well, you know what? Let's go over two things in the script or whatever. And she was like, oh, well, don't I have dinner booked? And I'm like, yes, but we
Right.
really got to go over this or whatever. So I'm trying to stall. Finally, the dressing room door pops open. In steps Dawn French and Jennifer Saunders, and still not really ringing the real bell,
Right.
until I get a really good look. And as they're jumping around, like, yay, oh my God, you're here, and I'm
Right.
sitting on the couch and I was just like, I know my face went,
Yes.
oh wow, royalty, like British comedy royalty right here. So I get them all booked in for dinner, and JD knows this story, right? And their
I was
car
going to
comes,
ask
and
you to tell the story.
they load it, they load in, they're loading into the car. And this is after Sharon stays for an hour signing autographs till the last
Right.
till the last person every time. You know, she used to tell me, like, if I give you a look, come and make an excuse and pull me
Right.
away. Never would give the look. She would just keep going. So now they're loading into the car, and Don French turns around and says to me, "Aren't you coming?" And I was like, "Oh no, no, you guys go." And off
Right.
away. And I call my wife, who's British, Australian British, and I go, "Oh my God, you're not even gonna believe this, but Don French and Jennifer Saunders were here and they asked me to dinner." She goes, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm not going. I didn't go." She was like, "Why didn't you go?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just said no, you know."
Right.
I just felt like weird. And she was like, "If I wasn't your wife, I would come down there in my pajamas and punch you in the face. I deserve it." Okay, see you in a little
Yeah.
bit. Oh my God. Yeah, missed opportunity there.
See, Dan
You
took
actually
the
have two
challenge.
episodes now. You have two episodes. If we keep talking, you can end after the movie and
Oh,
start a whole new one with all of this.
I know. We have a gossip show kind of here too.
Right.
That's so
Yes,
funny.
we
No,
could
we
have
Well,
will, we
after the
will,
show.
yeah,
yeah,
we will
I would.
definitely, we'll end on that note. That's fun stuff, that Dixie Carter and B. Arthur stuff. But more
Love
important
it.
is the movie
Love
stuff
it.
that you've done. And I really, really hope that audience people will go to Amazon Prime, watch it while it's free. You
And
know,
it's free on Amazon Prime, and also we just got it up on Tubi, so it's free there.
Oh,
And then
okay.
you can rent it on Google Play, Apple TV,
right.
and one
Right.
other one that I can't think of.
It's amazing. It's going to be everywhere. But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
brilliant, and I really hope people see it, and I hope that they come away with something. You know, I hope they
Mhm.
get the flip switch that we talked about. Yeah, for sure. Dan, it's been an absolute
Thank
joy
you.
and a pleasure. Thank you so
So
much,
great.
yeah, for being so kind with your time.
Oh, and thank you guys. It's been it flew by, literally just flew by.
So fun, this kind of talk.
Loved it. Loved your
Yeah,
stories.
amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good luck with
Thank
it.
you.
I'll see you on Twitch.
Yes, talk to you soon.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Why do you always run
It's like never stop chasing your dreams.
the love of
We
you
drank way
wants
too much
new?
whiskey.
You're addicted to a
There,
touch.
I
that
did.
see,
I
That's
did.
see.
true. And I confess, my addiction is you. Don't ask me why I'm here tonight. I had to take this midnight drive to find you. And as I come in through the door, I see her dancing on the floor beside you. Why do you always run back to the lover you once knew? You're addicted to her touch, that's true. And I confess, my addiction is you. reveals my